Okay, I have a confession.
They're all gonna want to take showers afterwards.
Oh my God, what's gonna happen?
This is so sexy.
Oh my goodness. I had a huge daddy fetish.
Bound to go wow wow.
And when I'm back in Chicago, I feel it. Hi guys, this is Sex Tales. We're in Chicago.
Woo! My backyard. We're here. Welcome. Thanks for coming.
Melissa
to
knows
my
Chicago.
Hometown.
Yeah.
I sure do.
I can tell you do. And we've got not just Melissa, we've got Lisa Ann today.
The incomparable superstar, Lisa Ann. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you for having me. It's great to be here with you two, kicking off the show this way, coming into the actual convention center where there's no one here yet, like the calm before the storm.
I've never been in an empty one before.
It's
like
wild.
Usually I'm, late as hell, but I was actually early today.
Yes, you are.
And it was empty.
Feels good. It's our turf right now.
Yeah, heck yeah. Time to show some
Yeah.
do some
I'm
nasty
ready.
things. You ready?
Yeah, I'm ready.
Let's do it.
Couldn't keep my shirt on today. So. Yeah, for sure. So we want to ask you a ton of questions because the internet knows you. We want to get to know you a little bit better. So you have been described as one of the most popular and successful actresses in the world. What do you think has contributed to your widespread success?
I think really a layer of, consistency, not changing my look and not changing myself throughout my career. I grew within my career as I naturally evolved as a performer and started doing scenes that I didn't do before. But everything from tattoos to piercings to changing your hair to changing your hairstyle, all of your weight, all of those things kind of might bring in a new fan base, might lose a fan base. So my goal was always to try and mimic how I looked from the jump to throughout my entire career and be able to just continue to grow as me, like live as me and not be forced to change how I look. When I first got into the business, I was asked to dye my hair because there weren't contract stars yet that were brunettes. All the contract stars were blondes. And I was, and I just knew that I couldn't keep up with it. And I was like, no, because I don't want to have to keep up with dyeing my hair and I don't want to change my look,
all the
but
time.
Sticking to like, no, this is who I am, this is how I want to look, I think really adds to it. And I chose the performers that I wanted to shoot with and I chose when I wanted to shoot. It wasn't an agent-driven business when I got involved. It was a small networking business in the 90s. I was lucky to have a contract, but the reality is I didn't do anything that I was just doing ever as a job. I did it as an experience and as knowing that the experience I was having was going to multiply and create so many experiences for other people. The pure thrill for me is the visualization of knowing who's going to enjoy this scene and when and where and for how many years and forever and who they're going to enjoy it with. So that layer of that never changed for me. And I'm so glad it didn't because I think that's what really helped me earn that title.
Yeah,
That's
absolutely.
really magical. Do you think there's like a strain or I think there's an emphasis on being financially stable, being sort of a contract star that you are? Do you think people expect you to be financially stable?
Well, I did retire from the business years ago and don't shoot anymore. In my younger years, I was a contract girl. Then I was independent. The money was very different in the 90s. The money was very different before the internet. I think there's a lot more people at that money now than when I first got in. So there was more money on the table with less people taking it. So you had access, right? So there was maybe 50 of us that were very well known in the 90s. If we wanted feature dance, gigs, if we wanted things, there weren't thousands of performers out there offering to do them for less price or however that whole dynamic would play out. And so I think being financially stable should be a priority to anybody getting into this industry because I do believe it's the one leg you have to stand on when people judge. People want to judge, great. I set my life up. You can all go off. I'm not going to take advantage of the system. I'm not taking any money. I didn't take any money during COVID. I would never take any money from the government. Those are all the things I'm not doing because of what I did do. So if you don't have that, it makes it a lot harder. Also, it's a harder struggle when you get out and you try and kind of get into the workspace of doing other things. Sometimes it's not going to be a good fit. You've got to be able to financially hold yourself down until you find that fit that does reward you financially.
Yeah. Absolutely. That's
solid
inspiring.
ass
I'll take some more
advice.
money tips.
Every time I meet someone new, I met these twins that the day they turned 18, I met them in Australia. The day they turned 18, they got an OnlyFans going. And I said, first thing I want you guys to do is for the first 90 days, every bit of money that you make, save. act like it didn't even happen yet. Then just start over and put that money and do not, and I'm talking, you're not touching until you're in your 50s. You're not touching until you're in your 60s. And so at that age, how that would add up would be
You've got
really
to create
powerful.
a bit of a culture within yourself, because like when you get 25, 26, like the idea of money is pretty much set in stone.
Yeah.
But when you're 18, you can start and create a culture where you save and you're okay with saving.
And learn, there's so many great people out there offering us information for free, whether it's on Instagram or YouTube, where you can just say, hey, for 2 hours a week, I'm going to put myself in front of a screen and I'm going to learn about how to financially prepare myself to live in this world in the best way possible, right? And that can be so empowering. There's master classes now you can take. There's so many things you could do. The information is there. To not do it is just lazy.
Yeah. So my intro to Lisa Ann was through your Sarah Palin parodies. What inspired you to take that on?
It was funny. I was running a talent agency at the time, and one of the talent I represented was Nina Hartley, and Nina Hartley had called me, and she was very political, and I at that time was not very political. Yeah. And she called me, she's like, you have to play this woman, Sarah Palin. And I'm like, oh, I don't know. I've never played someone else. I don't know if I'm into that. And Nina's like, look, you have to do it before somebody else does. Mm-hmm. And then, 2 days goes by, and I get a phone call from Drew from Hustler, and he's like, hey, we're putting together this movie, Who's Nailing Palin? I'm like, great title, I like it. Yeah. And you're perfect.
That was you?
That was the Lisa Ann.
That was me with bangs.
Bangs and an updo
and bigger boobs.
And
bigger boobs, because when I retired, the first thing I did was a breast reduction.
Really?
Oh.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
I also slimmed down my body by 55 pounds when I retired. So now my boobs look just as big as they did before. I just look much smaller. Yeah, it's a very strange dynamic how this all worked. Yeah, that was me.
That's amazing. How do you feel like that impacted your career?
Oh, I mean, that changed everything for me in so many incredible ways. It also was a time where I knew I needed to really jump on the bandwagon as fast as possible. Yeah. As soon as I realized the notoriety that was going to actually have, I'm on TMZ, our first day on set, it was the first day mainstream people were just like on set with us. Mm-hmm. Everyone was there. This was part of pop culture before it was even shot. Yeah. Like before the movie was even done, it was already this big thing. I was in an Eminem video.
Like, viral moment.
What? Yeah. The song is We Made You. I was in an Eminem video.
I love that song.
And that was when he had all the celebrities like Kim Kardashian lookalike and Amy Winehouse. He had me, Britney Spears. So that was amazing. And that was the moment where I remember saying to myself, you need to go back out on the road full-time feature dancing and take advantage of this money because you're never going to make money like this. And I, for 4 years, from 2008 to 2012, I did every weekend except Thanksgiving and Christmas. So I did 50 weekends a year feature dancing to stockpile the rest of my money that I wanted to be able to walk away from the business with. Mm-hmm. And it was insane. Amazing. I can remember my first gig. I just still didn't believe that it was going to be as popular as it was. So I still wasn't even carrying any Sarah Palin suits with me on the road. Yeah. I had my regular feature and the owner was like, you don't have a suit? I'm like, what do you mean? Like, no, I have all my costumes. Like, I'm Lisa Ann. He's like, no, you're Sarah Palin. I'm like, oh my God, there were moments. Wow. There were moments where I kind of fought it and I wore my regular costumes underneath the Sarah Palin suit and had the club owner call my agent. But regardless, the very first gig, it was in Flint, Michigan. It was a very big club. It was a Deja Vu, which they were 18 and up to get in, no alcohol. And I remember doing my show and coming downstairs. And after your show, people will stand up and wait, meet and greet. They take a photo with you. They buy a DVD, whatever. And I remember going downstairs and every single person in the club was standing up and they were waiting in a line. And I remember looking at my assistant going, we are not going to have enough DVDs. Get on the phone right now. Get some.
we need more merch.
So much money that we're not going to be able to get at home. Yeah. And you're only legally allowed to carry $10,000 cash each. You have two people with you, so $10,000 each. And I remember that night, every show I was like, man, we're going to have to go to Staples and buy Visa gift cards. Like, what are we going to do? How are we going to get this money home? Like that was a time of money that I just never thought I would see. And at the age, I was, in my mid 30s. So it was a great time to come into that like second wave of a big push for my career.
Oh my gosh. You advocate for mental health quite a lot, women's empowerment and sexual health. Could you share some of the specific causes and charitable organizations you're affiliated with?
Well, this is very exciting. Let me put this down. This is a non-coffee in hand moment. Well, one of the great things about being with you two here today is I just did a speaking engagement at Temple University for a professor that hosts literacy, gender ideology, and sexual wellness classes. And I have been networking and doing this kind of thing for quite some time. I got to speak at the Oxford Union in London in 2019 with Dr. Ruth.
Dude, you
I got to be, it's really empowering and understanding that we're in front of a generation that was raised with a phone. And the younger they got a phone was the quicker they discovered porn. And it wasn't because they were watching to understand they were watching porn, but it becomes a dopamine release, becomes addicting. And the saddest side effect is it really becomes a way where at a young age, young women and men are comparing their bodies to other people.
Yeah.
And at 10, I was like, are we playing basketball or playing catch? Like I wasn't worried about what my body looked like. I wasn't worried about, and so the anxiety that's brought onto them younger. So I really want to be a voice of empowering them to understand some of the myths on set, some of the things that we do that are unrealistic, that they should not be expected to do at home. And so when I was asked to do this podcast after just speaking at Temple and meeting the two young students who work with the Planned Parenthood chapter on campus. And I have a very good experience with Planned Parenthood. I learned everything about sex, sexual wellness, and being protected and planning from as a young girl from Planned Parenthood. So I was like, I met with them. And when I got asked to do this podcast, I don't accept money ever for conversations. So people ask to pay me. I always say, please donate the money to charity. Whatever you're willing to pay me and donate, I will match. So because of this, vending machines are going to now be on campus with prophylactics as well as Plan B pills. And that's going to happen because we did this conversation. So I do a lot of charity work through the year. Blessings in a Backpack is a charity I raise for on my birthday and on holidays. I do a walk for Alzheimer's research every year. I do a suicide prevention walk in New York City, which is a 24-hour walk. And now I'm adding in Pennsylvania. It's perfect Temple because I grew up in Pennsylvania, and so it's close to home, and it just matters. So adding a charity component to Exotica is something I've been wanting to do for a while, and knowing that I've started this whole weekend of seeing my fans and making money and having fun and doing these things with a cause that's greater than me, I know that I can help these two young students and we can raise even more money. And then what we'll do with the rest of that money is we'll take it out of Temple. We'll find areas where there's lower income areas where they need even more help, whether it be the vans that go around and do mammograms or just getting them their yearly exams. So making sure that we're then going to take the outreach to communities that really need it and are underserved. So it's a huge passion project of mine to do anything that is helping, using my fan base for the greater good, and also helping young people feel confident. Working with these two young students, I can see that I'm already giving them some inspiration, and they got to go back to their leader and go, oh, we've at least, and she's already get us this much money. And so it's good for them to feel success at a young age. Anyone that decides to go into the charity component of life isn't going to get rich, but they're going to be rich in what it feeds their body and their soul. And I just want them to feel empowered and confident.
Yeah. That's amazing. Well, congratulations. We're really excited for you to have that tangible result. I would have given anything to have had a vending machine like that on my campus. That's incredible.
People don't realize how, the societal pressure that comes with just buying a condom at the CVS.
Yes.
Especially when you're not necessarily of age or supposed to be buying condoms, you know?
Yes. And also, this is the generation that grew up watching too young and not having any sex ed in high school. Only 22 states are offering, and 10 of those 22 states offer abstinence. So that means only 12 states. They don't want to get STDs. They don't want to have unwanted pregnancies, or they don't want any of these things, but knowledge is power. And we're no longer giving them knowledge. And then they feel awkward about asking to go buy a condom.
Yeah.
Right. In this industry, having such a known face, people expect you to be an expert about sex, but I don't think they realize that when you spend a lot of time in the industry, you're also an expert about sexual health.
Yes.
So that's a great way to kind of reaffirm those expectations of sex and sexual health kind of go hand in hand.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you're a trusted source for that
Yeah,
already,
it's
whether
neat
you
that
like it or not.
It's neat to stand in front of a room of students and realize like, oh my gosh, they're listening to me in this category so much.
Yeah.
Like, because we already have a relationship. They already know about me, and it's not awkward for them to ask questions.
Right.
They feel like they can ask me anything, and how beautiful is that?
It's gorgeous. I love that.
So, but charity work is very time intensive. How do you balance that with your mainstream ventures as well?
You know, I want to be able to give right now at least 10% of my time, maybe 15 later in life. I'll up that to 25% of my time. I feel like it really does feed my soul. So it might take away from something else, but at the same time,
You're fine with that.
Yeah, I'm fine with that. And also, there's a great series on Netflix called Blue Zones. Blue zones are places in the world where people live to be over 100 years old.
Oh, really?
And one of the components in a long life is charity.
Yes.
It's doing things for your community. It's doing things that don't just benefit you. And there's something about that feeds
So
the
that's
soul.
your aging secret? I was hoping you'd be like, it's Botox. It comes in a bottle. She's like, no, it's 10% of your time to charity. God damn it.
It's charity and
I got work to
community
do.
and faith and all of those things, you know?
Yeah. That's amazing.
Can you share more of your experience as a talent agent? What was that like?
I was just asked a question earlier. Being a talent agent was the worst job I ever had in
Really?
this business. Oh my gosh. It is
imagine.
so stressful because if you have, X amount of jobs booked, only a percentage, and like I said, the example I used earlier, if you have 10 jobs booked for that day, 5 might happen. Out of the other 5, there are going to be 3 that are so late that don't get along with their partner, that something happens on set, that so many things go wrong. And also, I have found that I thought I wanted to be an agent because I thought I could give performers advice and they would take it as me from being in the business as long as I have, this and that. But what I realized is when there's a monetary value where they feel I'm giving them advice because it benefits me financially, they don't listen.
Right. They feel like there's this little double thing
Yes.
happening.
And so when I stepped away, I was like, I'll help anybody. Anybody has questions for me, I will help you, but I'm just better doing it in a selective situation because they get spiteful and it gets weird. It's like, no, I'm just trying to help you.
Yeah.
But it's a very tough job. You're also competing against a lot of agents who do a lot of shady things. And when you're not shady, then you end up, suffering.
We've had a few conversations about agents on this pod. A few people have brought them up. So just I think that each agent is different. And so
Yeah, but I'll give you an
Pros and
example. I
cons.
just learned the other day that the agents are now telling talent that they can't choose who they work with.
oh my God, like in what way?
Like they can't choose unless somebody's on their no list. Like they just book the boy girl scene, and then when she shows up, or maybe the day before, she knows who she's working with, but can't say no, I don't want to work unless that person is on their no list. I'm like, no, that is not good.
That is not
I do
how
not
this
like
works.
that. I'm not down with that. This is a conversation I'm going to start having. I need to find out who's doing this. I need to reach out to them myself. Be like, don't do this.
Oh
Yeah.
my God.
That is
Because
true.
we're
I
not
feel-
selling good content then.
Yeah.
A scene is a waste of everyone's time if the people are not intimately connected with
You're
each
trying to
other.
arrange marriage.
Yeah, and it's like I don't want people on my sets. I never wanted
gonna have
people
to
to
act
meet.
today.
Right.
I don't want you to meet a stranger and then do a scene with them in front of me. I'm sorry, I just can't. I don't.
There
I
is a-
don't. I don't. I want
Yeah.
you guys to have a rapport.
There is
Yeah.
a growing trend, and I would say it's just kind of top performers get this privilege right now of working off of a yes list rather than a no list.
So everyone should have a yes list.
Right.
You should
And that's
shop
what
on
you're
all the
saying.
agency sites, make a list of the top 50 boys.
Exactly.
And then start to work down that list and then narrow it down to your top 25 or your top 20 and then just keep it there.
Exactly.
But I want you to be connected. I want you to like each other. I want you to be sexually connected to make a good scene where passion is visible.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Well, you'd make an amazing producer then.
I did produce for years. I did
Amazing.
really love
Yeah.
that. I loved producing.
Yeah. Were you always looking to get the two perfect people together?
So I would always, let the women choose. But I would just ask them
There
to
you
give me
go.
their top 5.
Yeah.
And if I couldn't find someone within that top 5, and of course, when I would reach out to that top 5, I would ask them as well how they felt about this performer. So I just wanted to make sure everybody was excited to see each other that day and work together.
Yeah. I love that.
You have to have the right snacks too.
Oh, yes.
What's the right snacks?
Well, everyone has their own favorite snacks, so you have to ask them when you book
You
the
have to ask.
scenes.
Oh my
What are
God,
your
how
favorite snacks? Do you want
nice.
coconut water? Do you like Red Bull? What are your snacks?
That was kind of a trick question, but I didn't
Yeah.
actually mean it to be true. That was
Yeah,
good.
yeah,
You're
you
right.
have to
You have
ask.
to ask.
Everyone
Yeah.
likes different
Yeah.
snacks.
Oh, yeah. I
Oh
like
my
gummy
God.
bears and a Red
Oh.
Bull. That's me. Mainly.
Easy. You got it.
Okay, funny story. I actually got invited to an orgy last week, but before I went, I actually wanted to see the people who were going to be at the orgy. And, okay, I just made that up. But that's literally the season of Cam Girlfriend Season 2, which you can watch on the Camming Life YouTube channel.
I am a huge sports fan. Let's shift gears a little bit.
Okay.
Tell me about the sports
Let's
commentary. Give me the DL on what that was like.
So in 2013, I started my very first show with Sirius XM called Lisa Ann Does Fantasy. It was all fantasy football, fantasy basketball, fantasy baseball. Did that show for 10 years. I love fantasy sports. I'm in about 25 fantasy leagues a year. And I do a lot of leagues for charity.
Yeah.
So the one trophy I have from this year was a charity league. And that I raised for Blessings in a Back Pocket. Everybody buys in, and then the winner picks the charity of their choice, and all the money goes, which is amazing.
Yeah.
But, sports really allowed me to focus on something for the first time in my life as an adult that had nothing to do with me. What I looked like, what I was wearing, where I was going, didn't matter. It was what other people were doing. And I think making that step from deciding I was going to be leaving the industry and entering into a new space, I really needed that distracto facto, right? That all of this, all I got to do is watch all these games, study all these players, and pay attention. And people will want me to do this. It was one of those you really had to grind it out.
Right.
And I got my first contract 2013. I told my friends, look, if I get a second contract in 2014, I'm going to start to move away from the industry and start to focus on this. And SiriusXM had no problem with me being in the industry. That wasn't a thing.
Amazing.
I just was ready. I was watching things evolve in the industry. I was watching it change, and I was realizing that I kind of outgrew a lot of the things that I loved, and a lot of things weren't present anymore, and it had become a little bit different, and I didn't love it as much as I once did. And so I got that second contract, I stayed, and now I've parlayed these two worlds where I take my strip club connections. So I do a lot of work with Sapphire. There's 3 Sapphires in New York, and there's 1 in Vegas. And so I host events, March Mayhem during the games. I host Super Bowl. I host draft events. I'll be hosting a draft event in the city, making everybody wear their team jersey so that when their team makes a pick, I can go and sit with them and be like, how do you feel about this pick? Are you upset? Are you happy about it? Yeah, let me know. So I'm really excited about that. And I now sell content on betting picks. So I did Monday Night Football for Sapphire in Vegas. I went 22-10 this season.
Whoa.
Pretty good. Made some money. And I do a lot of sports betting. So I've just continued to parlay it. It's the same demo. My male fans that come,
audience.
The best is Exotica, New Jersey, and DC because it's fantasy football season.
Yep.
So many of my fans will walk right up to me, hand me their phone, and they'll be like, look at my lineup, tell me what I'm doing wrong.
They do not.
Yes,
Oh
I
my
get
God.
to make picks
They
on the
trust
waiver
you
wire.
to,
I
just
go
fucking-
onto their
oh my
waiver wire and make picks.
I love it.
And so again,
love
it's
it.
about being creative. You know, I'm sure you all know of the Cameo app where you can sell birthday shout outs or whatever. Well, I decided in 2014, my second year doing fantasy football, I was like, you know what? I'm going to do a pitch where I pull your draft order for your fantasy league on a Cameo.
Okay.
I do it out of my fleshlight, so I take their league names. I am able to go back and forth in the messages and ask them who won last year, who came in last place, what's your punishment. And I've built this business that the month of August, I am literally
Just
doing
fantasy
them
football.
from the minute I wake up to, I cannot wait until the season starts to stop doing them, but it's a great money grab for me. It's a month where I make a stupid amount of money. I make more in that month than I make the whole year on Cameo. But it was smart for me to go, okay, how can I parlay? And they love it coming out of the fleshlight because I do the tutorial.
epic.
I do the whole tutorial on how you can unscrew the back, get more suction, how to clean it. I shake it up, I show them, and I love doing them. And it's something that because I love fantasy football, I know the importance of the clarity of I even shoot the video selfie style, but flip it. So that when I'm holding their names, even though I'm saying their name, it says Steve going the right
so it's
way.
backwards.
I'm just obsessive.
Oh, you're a perfectionist.
Yeah, I'm a
I see.
I freak.
Passion,
I freak. And it takes,
perfection.
if it's an 8-minute video, it takes forever to flip it. But I'm so committed. I have 2 phones going because there's days I'll do 30 of them.
Wow.
Whoa.
In one day.
I got to hear from the fans how good her picks are.
I want
gotta
to know.
about
I don't know a
this.
damn thing about football, but I want to know. I want to know if people have won with your pick.
22-10's pretty good record for Monday Night Football.
Good, yeah. What inspired your memoir?
My first book was The Life. I wrote a second book during the pandemic because why not? We were all home with nothing to do. And that was called The Life Back. What made me was like I always knew I would want to tell my story, you know, and I would want to share things that I found were remarkable stories. I did a whole chapter on what it was like to play Sarah Palin. That was really the first time I got to travel to other countries as a performer and host events in other countries and do trade shows.
Based on your book?
No, based on Sarah Palin. So I wrote about that and, you know, just what it was like getting in the business before the internet. You know, think about it. I was trying to get involved in the very late 80s. So looking and learning about the business, by 1990, I was starting to hire photographers. You would have to pick the photos, then you have to get them printed, then you have to mail them to California. And I was mailing them to the addresses in the back of magazines.
Whoa.
So you'd go into Hustler and you'd just be like, okay, well, you know, this
Hope
is
it gets
where
there.
this address is in Chatsworth. I'm going to mail all these envelopes out. And it was this whole, and then you'd wait. It'd be a long distance phone call and you'd have a calling card. Like the whole thing took 2 years just to establish a connection to make me feel like I wouldn't get murdered if I went to California by myself on a one-way ticket.
That is totally different than how things happen now, that intro to the industry. So I love that that's in your book. Like just completely different time.
Completely different time. Really made me think about it.
Yeah.
You know, it wasn't a flippant decision. It wasn't just uploading a photo
You
and
had to
somebody
work
called. You had to
so
work
hard
so
for it.
hard. You had to be so sure.
Yeah.
And luckily, there were women like Christy Canyon who shows up at all the Exoticas. I met Christy when I was 18. And there were women like Christy that worked at the club that I was at, which is Al's Diamond Cabaret in Reading, Pennsylvania, that they would let me interview them. And so I had this ongoing series of notebooks of me asking them questions of things like, what do and don't I want to do? How do I become a contract girl? How am I on the box cover of the VHS? Remember, this was VHS.
Oh, yeah.
I want to be on the box cover. How do I be on the box cover alone?
How do I get the VHS cover?
Yeah, so like I had, and anyone that would let me, and Christy is just the sweetest woman in the world. And the fact that I've known her my whole life, pretty much, it's awesome.
That's amazing.
That's so sweet.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Was it hard to write? Are you a natural writer?
I'm a natural writer.
Oh, yeah?
When I was in 5th grade, I won a creative writing contest in the state of Pennsylvania for a poem that I had written. And the newspaper came into my school and took a photo of me writing. And I was on the cover of my local newspaper. I still have the photo.
That sparked it?
I put the photo in my book. Yeah. It just sparked my first taste of fame, really.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Because coming up in a big Italian family, all my aunts and uncles left that newspaper on their coffee tables forever.
Yeah.
And I just felt so like, you know,
Accomplished.
the newspaper back
Yeah.
then would send you a black and white 8x10 version of the actual photo they shot of you in the newspaper with your own stack of copies. And I just remember, so that not only started my writing, but it also started my chase for fame.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of being in the news lately, we saw you had a little scuffle at Matt Rife's comedy
very,
show.
very small.
We want to hear your side.
Slight
We want to
scuffle.
hear your side.
Very small scuffle. It was a very strange incident that
was
never
heated.
it never made sense to me until about 24 hours later.
Oh.
And one of the things that I write about in my second book is kind of the evil that lies within. There's a lot of competition in this industry and a lot of people that once they hate you are so fixated on you and will continue to try to make your life absolutely miserable. So in this one instant, I made a mistake and I did an IG live that afternoon around 1:00. And I said exactly what show I was going to, what time, and what location. And I never give my location. And within a couple of hours, I was getting messages on OnlyFans from my fans being like, why would you put that out there? You never put out, you know girls hate you. You know they're already talking about this. So I'm like, thought nothing of it.
Yeah.
So when I go there, we get into the venue about 45 minutes early. And I take a photo by the stage. There's no one there yet. We're 2 rows from the stage. A friend of mine bought really expensive tickets. It was 3 of us, 2 rows from the stage. And I take a photo. And in the photo, when I sit down at my seat, because I was going to send it to Matt Rife, because I had done a one-off comedy show for SiriusXM with Matt Rife virtually. We'd never met in person, but I was going to meet him that night at the show. Little did I know any of this was going to happen. So I go down, I sit down, I look, and as I look, I see the security guy behind me in the photo looking at me like he wants to murder me, like murder me. And I look at my girlfriend, I'm like, boy, this guy, how am I going to get him out of this photo? And before I could do anything about it, they come to me and they're like, ma'am, you're not allowed on your phone. And I said, no problem at all. I come to the Rockettes multiple times a year. No one was in here. I thought I could be on my phone. I'm going to put my phone in my bag, put my bag on the back of my chair. I won't touch my phone. Boom. We watched the 2 opening acts. Nothing. Fine. Matt's out for maybe 5 minutes. And next thing you know, and I'm watching him on stage here. And the stage is in front of us here, but he's over on this side. Next thing you know, that same other face gets in my face and he's like, ma'am, you have to leave. You're on your phone. I'm like, I'm not on my phone. I'm looking at you. You don't want to make a scene, especially as a performer.
Right.
You're second row from the stage. So I'm like, you know what? I'm going to get up and get out. Tell my friends, just wait here. I'll be right back. Like, this could be nothing because I know I was doing nothing wrong. And so as we get out front, now there's like 7 dudes around me. And as we get out front, which I have the video, which was pretty traumatic to watch because the way the cops flipped me around and the whole thing was so bizarre because as I got out front, they're like, okay, you have to leave. And I'm like, well, for what? They're like, you were on your phone. I'm like, well, look, you can do one of 2 things. You can check the cameras, you can check the data on my phone. But as a customer and knowing what my friends spent on these tickets, like I have a right to ask you to do these things. And they're like, no, you don't. If you don't leave right now, we're going to arrest you for trespassing.
Whoa.
And now I know a lot of cops, so I wasn't worried about getting arrested. So I was like, well, you know what? If that's what it's going to take, then let's do that. So then the cops just were like, okay. They just spun me around, flipped me up against the wall, handcuffs. And I'm like, yeah, I'd cracked my Cartier watch, bent my bracelet. And now my friends are just still at the seat waiting for me to come back, thinking I'm coming back. And I'm in this lobby alone. And when you watch the video that the New York Post put up, you can see one of the guys laughing in the camera as he walks away. Well, that's the guy that is connected with the girl in the business that hates me, that had me on the wanted list for every time I'd ever gone to Radio City and was waiting for me to. Normally, I tell all my friends, don't tell anyone where we're going.
Right.
We post, because I live in that much fear since 2014 of girls with me in the business. I live in that much fear, and my friends know everything's in past tense. You can never say where we are.
Right.
I can't use story like a normal person. I can't tag my location. And so when I watched that video, I was like, so now I'm being dragged out front. I'm like, you guys have to go get my friends. I'm not going to leave with these 2 men by myself. Now we're being dragged out front, and now I'm away from where the cameras are at Radio City. And I'm like, all right, to the cops, which I'd never seen these 2 rookies before. I said, you both have to turn on your body cams now because you've dragged me outside and you've taken me out of the view of the camera at Radio City, which I know. So now you got to put your body cams on. Now my friends have to come out here. So as soon as my friends came out, I'm like, all right, something's not right here.
Right.
But what I need you all to do is start taking photos. Because obviously, if we're not going to see this show, we're going to create content. Let's see what happens next. So I look at the cops and I'm like, what's next? What is the next cause of action here? They're like, well, you know, they're one of 2 choices. Either an ambulance will show up or a police car will show up, and you'll either be taken downtown and be arrested, or you're going to be given a medical evaluation to see if you're, you're like a psychiatric. And I was like, all right, you know what we're going to do? Let's just see who rolls up first. And I knew, like, the cops are not going to take this call. They're not going to take a call, but an ambulance is going to take this call. So the ambulance rolls up. So as the ambulance is starting to roll up, I look at my girlfriend. I'm like, this is your fucking moment. This is your one shot. You need to shoot this fucking footage right now. This is all we're going to have. Because I knew once I got in the ambulance, I was going to be let free. So I get in the ambulance, and the woman is like, this is insane. I can't believe they're doing this to you. They have to let you go. And she's like, I can't take her in. I can't do paperwork on her. There's nothing wrong with her. You guys are just f***ing with her. I don't know why, but you have to let her go. So when they let me go, then I decide, okay, now it's time for me to do press, right? I'm going to reach out to TMZ.
Right.
I'm going to make something of this, and I'm going to see if fake news is actually a real thing, or if the world would actually research whether I got arrested or not, which the world did not. I went home that night, cracked open a bottle of wine, sent all this stuff to TMZ, deleted my social media for the next day so everyone could think I was sitting in jail because I was wondering if people were actually
She did. You leaned in hard. We thought it was real.
We thought it was real. Yep. Oh my God.
Yeah. And now I know exactly who did it. And I know exactly who the kid is that works at Radio City. But here's the second layer to that. James Dolan uses facial recognition. So if you've done something in one of his places and you've been put in the system, you will not be allowed to any other venue. So I knew Madison Square Garden. I go to a lot of Knicks games. I need to go to a game, but I'm going to have to go in a very unique situation where I get player authorized team tickets because that's the only way you cannot be thrown out. So I know I can't buy a ticket. I've got to work this out through somebody I know, which I do.
Yeah.
I take Joanna Angel to her very first NBA game and I prepare
Nice.
her. When we walk in through security, we may get swarmed by security. Just be chill. I'll handle it. Just be chill. So we go through security.
Just be cool. Be cool. Be cool.
And as soon as we get through security, guy in my face, and out of my peripheral, I just see it, them just circling it. And every one of them is looking at my phone and is the photo of me out front of Radio City. So I'm like, I know what's taking place right now.
Yeah.
So I'm like, here's my ID, here's my ticket. You are aware that you can't remove me from the venue. And the guy's like, look, we love having you here because I go to a ton of games. They know me. They know I never act out. They know there's never a problem. They know this is very weird. And I said, one situation should not tarnish my entire existence in this world. I will email this email. Thank you for giving it to me. I will resolve this. But at the same time, I'm going to fucking resolve it. And then I'm going to turn around and flip the script. Because if you're going to be James Dolan and you're going to have facial recognition, you're not going to let people in your shit, then you need to train your staff to not be a feverish fucking masturbator that does something as a sub on OnlyFans for his favorite fucking porn star. Because it's a fan that did it for a girl in the business to make a fool of me. And it didn't work.
What?
No, it did not. No, it did not. That's the biggest backfire of all time, for sure.
God.
Yeah.
But that's haters for you, though.
Oh my
haters
God.
will spend all their time, energy, and money
if they
trying to
spent
figure out how
that
to
time,
fuck you up.
Yes.
And if they maybe spent half that time, I don't know, doing something of fucking value.
Yeah.
Your podcast often deals with things like sex and life. Is there anything that you've learned in these discussions that you didn't necessarily know before?
Not so much on the sex category. On the life, yes. What I love to do, one of my favorite experiences that I get to live out with my podcast is reading a book and then reaching out to the author so I can have them on my podcast to ask my own personal follow-up questions.
Who have you had?
So 2 weeks ago, I had Brad Pilon, who wrote the book Eat, Stop, Eat, and I started doing a one-day, 24-hour fast once a week 6 months ago after reading his book. And I kept kind of a journal for the 6 months, and then I formulated my questions, and I reached out to him on IG. I was like, hey, would you have this conversation with me on my podcast? The week before that, I had Catherine Hiller. She's published 10 books. She's 78 years old and still writes. She's a dynamic woman who runs 5 days a week and just lives this vibrant, at that age, just be that vibrant. So I love the experience of being able to, that challenge. I love to read, so learning more and then wondering, man, I wish I could ask that person. Now I have the vehicle to do that.
Yeah, now you can. That's so wonderful. This is on, you have a serious one. Sirius XM.
Sirius XM, I do a show called Better Halves. It's on Raw Comedy. We release new episodes every Friday. My co-host, Brett Raybould, is a comedian that I met in 2021. And I just had this feeling that somehow the stars would align and we'd work together. He's Kansas City kid, super, white bread, super square. We're just teaching him things. Teaching him so many. He's so wholesome, but he's got the best comedic timing. He's a brilliant writer. He's put together 2 plays. I've supported every show he's done in this city when it comes to his plays, his table read. He's absolutely brilliant. And so we get to bring in other comedians, and I kind of get to sit in the center and be that, I help them go back and forth, stay on time, do the thing a broadcaster would do. And I let these comedians just make me laugh. And it's been a new space for me. Doing fantasy sports and doing mainly sports radio for my first 10 years in broadcast, I didn't really get to tell stories about being in the business. And now through our dating question mailbag and through comedians coming in and asking me questions, I found that I've been able to tell more funny stories than I've ever told. And that's been a great little hitch for me, a release, a jogging of the brain, and a lot of laughter and a lot of behind the scenes stuff.
Wow.
Can you share a moment where you felt intense connection or chemistry with a co-star and that translated into an unforgettable scene? So
how many moments,
lucky girl.
So many moments. I remember my very very first scene where I thought I fell in love with the performer. This was in the 90s. It was like my second movie. We dated for a couple of minutes after the but then we realized
That's like
I realized it wasn't.
dream.
It wasn't that
You were digmatized?
it was digmatized. I did not know that. I'm from Pennsylvania, you know? I didn't know that. So, you know, Ian Daniels, shout out always. Gosh, you know, I shot in Europe a bit, and I really love the fact that when you're in another country, you're in this hub. So Budapest is where a lot of people shoot. You're in this hub where they're bringing in performers from all different countries, and everybody speaks a different language. So nobody could really chat. Though you can play Usher or Jay-Z in the dressing room and they'll sing word for word, right? Everyone's singing. But on set, it was really just the pure language of sex. And it was amazing how easy it was to communicate on a set with 8 people that spoke 8 different languages when it really just came down to the basics of the sex. And I just remember those being such beautiful scenes and such intense scenes because there was no distraction. There was no dirty talk because they really didn't want us all speaking in our different languages. So we didn't have to do that stupid stuff of like, talk more. It's like, what are we supposed to say? I'm thinking about my dry cleaning right now. Did I get it? Is the place going to be open? Like, you know.
How long have we been in this position?
Yeah.
Like,
so I think that was really a great experience. But I've had so many. Because I didn't shoot as a main job, I shot because I wanted to. I was pretty amped up by the time I would arrive to set to get in the makeup chair, to be excited for my guy to walk in.
Right.
While I was doing my pretty girls to be ready to do the scene.
Yeah, you were just
Love
like,
it.
come on, bring it on.
Yes.
Let's do it. So how long do you usually like to have sex? Are you like a 45-minute or
fan of the quickie?
like a quickie?
You know, when it comes to time, it's really specific to the partner,
Okay.
So true.
right?
Like position too. It's like,
Give
what's
you an
your favorite
example. If there's a
position?
guy, like there's a guy that I hook up with and he's fun to be around. He has good banter. We can actually stop having sex and kind of like chat for a little while and then go back to having sex. And we can do this whole thing. And then there's other people where it's like, I would like you to enter my apartment, hang out for a very brief amount of time. I would like us to just have sex. I would like you to leave immediately following. So there's a lot of different styles. I really do believe it's selective on the partner.
Okay.
But if it's a romantic thing, you'd like it to last almost all day. If you're at a hotel on vacation or something and you could just be having sex and stopping. But again, if it's somebody that you just want to get it done with and get them out so you can change your sheets and go to bed.
Yeah, I'm with that.
I've had a few of those.
Yeah. In and
Hopefully
in
at
and
least
out.
one this weekend. So
Hopefully.
Exotica
Hopefully.
is young, so we're
young.
on the case.
It's a preemie.
I love it. All right, post breakup sex, yes or no? Are you a relationship girly?
I'm not a relationship girl. I've only been in one my entire life. We got married. We were together for 7 years. We're still very good friends, but it's just not my jam.
Said never
I
again.
did have somebody in my life for it was exactly 13 years. Then I decided, and it was just an ongoing with other people and like not exclusive, but I was like, that's not going anywhere and it's holding me down too much. But no, I'm just a solo writer. I like to travel and be free. I have people that live all over the world that I know I can reach out to if I want something. But no, I've tried the relationship thing really legit once. And I'll be 52 next month, and I've only tried it once.
And we
It's
don't
a
make the
lot of
same
extra
mistake
work.
twice. Yeah.
Right. It is a lot of extra work.
The only great thing is the half of the other things. Like half of the other errands, half of the trash,
Right,
half of
half
the
the
other
laundry.
half of the other things that you
That's
don't
true.
get, but then the other half of the bed I don't want to give up every day.
Fair enough.
That's true.
Fair enough.
Do you have an ideal penis? Like if a boyfriend. Oh, but you don't like.
Yeah, an ideal. I mean, I'm going through my repertoire of like my faves. If I could like mash one together in the business, like do a smash up, like if it was like,
This is giving
part Lex,
Frankenstein.
part Mandingo,
Yeah.
part Isaiah Maxwell. Like I don't
All
really.
Isaiah.
I think they're all beautiful in their own way. Circumcised, uncircumcised, big, small. I think they're all beautiful. And for every guy that I get to have beautiful conversations with in my OnlyFans messages, I always say to them like, it's you guys that think we're wrapped up in that.
Yeah.
We're
Me
not.
too.
The
Yeah.
last thing we're worried
I don't
about really
care.
is what your penis looks
I'm
like.
sorry.
Yeah.
Like I don't give a damn.
No.
It's the person that's carrying that penis that matters. And you are the person, your energy, the way you connect, the way you touch. A guy can have a beautiful dick, but just be an asshole. And then it's like, what good is that? Right.
Yeah.
So
He's gonna leave
Yeah.
with his out of my house.
Yeah,
Best believe.
exactly.
Or we can play by ourselves. So, do you like toys or do you do it the old-fashioned way?
A little bit of both. I like to keep it
Little
mixed
DJ.
up. You know what I mean? A little DJ.
What do we call
yeah.
it? Acoustic?
Acoustic,
Okay.
yeah.
Acoustic, little DJ. Sometimes little vibrator. You know, it really all depends if I'm getting myself to bed at a reasonable time and I have a little time for the extras or if I just need to get at it.
I love it. What's your go-to toy?
I don't have one go-to. I have
No.
a couple right now, little tiny finger vibrators. I have a huge collection of glass toys.
Oh, love.
So when it comes to dildos, they're all glass. I just love glass toys.
Do you display them?
I don't. I don't
I feel like the
anymore.
glass ones
You know,
would be so
They
pretty.
are so pretty. They're so fucking heavy too.
That's what I was gonna say.
Don't travel with them.
I was displaying one at one point and it literally just fell off the hanger and shattered. And I remember feeling like, okay, there's my decoration for the room and also my favorite toy is gone.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
got to be careful with them. But they are the most sanitary because you can put them in the dishwasher.
Yes.
Correct, yeah.
Yeah.
Do you have a deal breaker?
Bad manners. Bad
Being
manners.
rude, yeah.
Bad manners. Deal breaker. You're rude. You don't know. You can't f***ing open the door for me. What are you thinking?
Or somebody
You're
else?
getting out of the elevator first. I will f***ing murk you. You know what I mean?
Oh my
Like bad
God.
manners are like the good manners are a panty dropper. Don't be rude to a server. Don't be, but yeah, bad manners.
Yeah.
When you're on a first date and you have to like teach a guy to be how to be
I
nice
won't.
to
You know
a
what
waitress?
I will do? I will eat until I'm lightly full. Then I will excuse myself to go to the ladies' room and I will get an Uber home and never
I
talk to
love
the fucker again.
Yeah.
It's my
Hell
favorite
yeah.
thing to do, but I am going to eat a little bit because girls got to eat.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, I don't need dessert with you.
Gotta get,
Right.
get
But
what
I
we
am
came
going to
for.
have that main course.
Facts. Oh my God.
I love it. Well, we want to say thank you so much
Yeah,
for
hell
being
yeah, we
on
wanna
our
say thank
podcast
you.
with us.
You've been
I want to
great.
say thank you for being a part of such a great operation with the Planned Parenthood down in
Thank you.
Temple University, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
Because of this conversation here, we're making big things happen. I'll make sure I send you all photos.
Yes,
I want to
please.
thank
Love that.
you
We'll
for
share
making
that.
this happen. Thank Natasha because it was Natasha who put this all together. And it was Natasha who I said, hey, can we do a charity component with this? It would mean a lot to
Anytime.
me.
Yeah.
Oh my God,
no,
that's
we're amazing.
beautiful.
Before we let you go, is there anything else you want to tell the fans?
At the release ends, all my social media. I'm not
Perfect.
private messaging you. So when you get that thing that is not from at the real Lisa Ann, it is a scam. Don't fall for it. And if you do, that's on you.
It's a good
It's on
PSA.
you if you think I'm private messaging you. You and your 17 followers. What the is your
Preach.
problem? And I'm at Exotica and I will spend all weekend having conversations with people that show me the conversations that they've been having with they think somebody that's me on their phone that are hours upon hours. And I will look at their face and go, look at yourself. What is wrong with you?
Oh
that you
my
think I have that kind of time to be messaging you? What is wrong with you? So don't do it. At the real Lisa Ann.
Yeah.
That's all, folks.
So good. Bye, guys.
Facts. Bye.
Hey, Sex Squad. Remember to spank that like button and subscribe on our YouTube channel, youtube.com/camminglife.
And make sure to subscribe to Sex Tales wherever you listen to your favorite podcast.
Yes.